Right, so I'm going to start trace repairs off with a real simple common repair. Now, I've had a few over the years. I've had to just easily fix this type of damage. This can easily occur. Maybe a screwdriver's just slipped when you're working nearby, or a scalpel blade may have slipped when you're doing a close by modification. But as this is so easy to repair, you're going to get a decent result. I just thought I'd start off with this method. So later on in the video, I've got a few more slightly more complicated methods. Some you may have seen, some you may not have. So anyway, we'll get on with this method and move on to the others later. Right, just before we start repairing this trace with a break across there, just going to do a quick continuity check. I'm going to take it from that capacitor over to this point. They should be connected, and then this point over to this test pad is where the break is. So we shouldn't be getting anything across there. So let's just do that one first. Nothing across there at all. It should buzz out over to there. So that's proving basically there's a break in the trace. So anyway, let's get this started. So basically what we're going to do first, it's quite a common fix this. When you've got a small gap in your trace, what you've got to do with this one, just take the resist away, small amount on either side. Just be careful, you don't want to go too deep in case you accidentally go through to an inner layer. Just keep it across the trace, don't want to go wider than that. Then come over to the other side. Take the same amount over that side. Normally I'll turn the board round to do this, but just for the video I'll try and do it this way. So that's all you're looking to do. Just take about 1 millimetre either side, take the resist off so you expose the copper, and that's all you're looking to do. Just get that dusted off quickly. So you can see where we're going. What we're going to do then, get some rework flux. Just add a small amount to the area you're working in. And we'll get this tinned up. Now, as with all the clips in this video, I'm going to use leaded solder. I've got my soldering iron set to 330 degrees Celsius. I'll probably keep mentioning the temperature as you go through. So what you're going to do here, a small amount on your iron. Just get both sides tinned up first. And then you should get a nice join across. So it's got a nice join right across the centre, and that's all you're looking to do. Basically bridge both gaps in the trace, both ends of the two traces, and join them together to make the continuous trace. So yeah, when you've got a small gap, any trace, that's an easy way to fix it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get this cleaned up, and then I'm going to add some solder mask to it just to protect it. Right, so as you can see, we've now cleaned up the joint down here. So it's got a nice fillet of solder bridging that gap that was there. I use a cleaning fluid called Ultra Solve. It's a really good PCB cleaning fluid. I've done videos on my YouTube channel all about this fluid and the other cleaning products I use. So if you're looking to see how to clean your boards and what products to use, maybe check that video out. So anyway, I'm happy with that joint. It's now bridged that gap. So now we're going to get some solder mask added. If you haven't got solder mask, you can add some maybe Captain tape just to protect your joint. But I'm basically just going to protect this one with the solder mask. So I'm just going to get a small amount on the end of some tweezers. Let's just get that placed over the joint. Don't want too much, just make a nice shape right over the joint, going out the side slightly. A bit more on top. And that's all you're looking for. So now I've got my torch is going to cure that. I'm going to hold it on there for, this one takes about 60 seconds to cure. I'm not going to show you all the 60 seconds, but what we'll do, I'll revisit this when it's cured and show you the end result. Right, so as you can see, we've got the solder mask cured. With that, when you're curing it, I did use a little bit of hot air as well, which you can do, or you've got UV torch. Basically, I know people who have cured this stuff in sunlight. What you first get when you're curing this, you get a skin on the outside and it cures from the outside in. Can take anywhere between 30 minutes to 24 hours. So yeah, if you get the skin on it, if you can leave it undisturbed, you should get a nice set mask joint. So anyway, I'm just going to quickly buzz out this trace where the break was. We should get a nice continuity noise. So that's all I'm looking for. Basically, I've got a nice fix there. As you can see, it's quite a tidy result. So anyway, if you get small gaps in your traces like this one, that's the easiest way that I know to fix them. So anyway, what we're going to do now is going to move on to some other trace methods. There's going to be a few within these videos. And yeah, hopefully you can learn something and enjoy them. Right, so moving on from the quite simple first repair we've just shown. This is how I deal with longer trace repairs. This one's actually got caught, ripped the whole trace off the board. It can happen. Once the trace starts to go, if you accidentally catch it, it can easily tear it all the way off the board, like what's happened here. That's the original route, and that is what I always like to follow when I'm doing these sort of repairs. This one's about 2 inches long. As you can see, you've got the original trace just floating around in the air. Not much chance of getting that back down. So I'll show you how I tidy this up, and yeah, we'll get a lovely method and should get a good result. Right, it's come on now to the part where I'm just going to tidy up both the ends, ready to accept the new trace. So with this end, just going to put my scalpel blade very gently next to the point where it joins the resistor pad. Just gently wiggle the old trace. It should snap at that point. Got hardly any pressure on my scalpel blade. Don't want anything. Don't want to go down potentially to the plane below. It's got that broken away there. So I've got a tiny bit of the old one still remaining, but that's fine. I'm going to put the new wire over the top of that. So what I'm going to do is go to the other end and we'll get that tidied up. Right, so move on to the other end of the trace, and this is the point it's going to, this wire. There's a tiny amount of the old existing trace still attached. We'll get rid of that. And I'm going to gently, very gently, just scrape away that small amount of resist on the top. We get this tinned up with leaded solder, and that's going to be the fixing point for the new wire. Basically, just carefully, just going to take that small amount of existing trace away without damaging any other traces. I just want to, hopefully I'll keep this in focus, just gently tweak that away. I'll put a small score through it. That's gone over to there, and just basically scrape away the small amount of resist on the top. Be really careful with your bias because you don't want to go down into the barrel. That should be enough of that. Let's just dust some of that away, and we can get that tinned up. Right, so you want a small amount of rework flux. Let's try and get that tinned up. So I'm using leaded solder, as I've said previously, about 330 degrees Celsius. So I'm going to get a small amount of my iron and try and get a nice tinned pad. Let's just try and get a small amount of leaded solder on there. So that's all you're looking to do. So I've got a nice tinned wire, and that's going to be a good fixing point for the new wire that's going to basically replace that missing trace. If you're worried at all about the barrels, you can always go around the other side of the board, find where this wire goes to, just do a continuity check through the board with your meter. So anyway, what we do, get this cleaned up, and then we'll get the wire prepared and get that fitted. Quickly, when I'm replacing a missing trace like this board has, where it's got a few bends in it, what I sometimes do, I lay a piece of solder along the root, shape it like the existing trace was, and this is going to give me the perfect length for my new wire. So all I've got to do now is take the solder off, straighten it up, which is obviously really easy, lay it against a piece of wire. In this case I'm going to use 30 gauge Kynar for this one, and then we can get it basically cut to the perfect length, including the stripped ends. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'll get the wire cut, stripped, and then we'll get it fitted to this missing trace. Like I said in the previous clip, what I've done here, I've got this wire prepared against that piece of solder that was shaped, and this is what's given me the perfect length, including the stripped ends. I've captain taped it down to hold it in position. So all I've got to do now is get these ends soldered up, and then we'll get the wire glued down after. The wire's in position, it's held down with the captain tape. Just quickly going to go in and get these two ends soldered up. It's got a nice join on that one, right down the side of the resistor. So what we do, go to the other end, get that soldered up, then we clean these up and get the glue in position. So let's get this second joint done. So this is the one going to the via. So add some flux again. So vias is something I've shown quite a few times in my videos, taking wires to vias, because it can be a very good fixing point. What we'll do, quickly go in with this. Got a rock solid joint going to the via. So yeah, basically, like I've said before quite a few times, if you're ever stuck, vias are a really good point to take your wires to if you need to. Anyway, what we do, we clean these up, and like I said previously, we then get this bonded down. Bond this wire down with Tac 382. Now this comes with an activator spray that I actually put on first. Basically what a lot of people do, they put the glue on first and they spray the activator, and that sort of sprays the glue out all over the place. Best thing to do, get the activator sprayed on, wait till it evaporates, and then you can apply spots of glue along the wire, and that way you're going to get nice beads of glue without sort of spraying around. So what we do, just get a few dots going along the wire. Got 4 or 5, maybe 6 spots along the wire, certain positions, just get one there. So the activator, with it being on there already, the glue's going to set quite quick. Just get a random few positions going along. Just move the wire there, so I'll get to them ones. Yeah, it's quite a good PCB glue this for wires. So you can get it from all the general places like Farnell and DigiKey and Mauser and RS. It's fairly expensive, but if you buy, because it comes in a 2-part kit, you can buy the parts separately from other places, and you can get it cheaper. I just put one near the resistor at the other end. I always like to put one right near both ends, and this glue should set quite quick because it's already got the spray on there. Let's get one down there. Get a slight bit more on that one, then that should do it. Right, so I've got 6 fillets of glue right along the wire, as you can see. So all I've got to do is wait a few minutes, wait till they activate and set, and then we get the captain tape removed. Right, so all the glue's now set, as you can see, just touching these ones, definitely set. So I'm going to get the captain tape removed, and we should get a quite good, decent result. Just take that last one off. So you can see, got 6 spots of glue, 2 nice soldered joints, and the trace pretty much running where the old one used to. So that's basically how I do my longer traces. Anyway, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to put a few photos up of the first 2, and then we're going to move on to some more complicated methods after the photos. So yeah, I'll see you after them. So moving on now, I've got these 3 traces you can see on your screen. This wider one over here is about 1.5mm side to side, and these 2 narrow ones roughly 0.2mm. As you see, you've still got the curled up traces floating in the air. Same with this, both sides are curled up. You've got gaps on all 3 traces. So I'm going to show you 2 different ways to fix these 3 traces. Within the video I'm going to try and cover a few different ways, give you a few options on fixing your traces. This is just 2 more ways, so we'll get straight on with fixing these now. I'm just going to start to tidy up on these 2 different size traces. With this one I'm going to put a gentle score across this point and basically a gentle score across there. Take these 2 traces back to solid parts of the existing trace, and we're going to scratch the resist off about 1 millimetre back on either trace, and we're going to get a transplanted piece of trace from another board. Just going to try and match the width, that's quite important. With these 2 I've got some enamel coated copper wire, 0.2 of a millimetre, and that's what we're going to fix these 2 with. So the first part of the operation is with these. Just take these loose bits of trace off. So just going to really gently score through there. Just push, just very gentle press. You don't want to go down too deep. There is a danger there's a layer down below, and you could easily hit that. So what you do is put a score in the trace. Just keep wiggling that, and it should break at that point. I'll pick that bit off later, I can see where it's gone. Same with this one. Just put a very gentle mark across the solid part of the trace. Same there. Let's just get them lifted off. I'm just going to use tweezers with these 2. Gently break it at that point there. Should just come away at that point. It's going to be really careful. So it's very narrow, this 0.2 of a millimetre. That's that one. We're going to do the other one now, the same. So I've already pre-scored across there. See, the trace won't lift further beyond that point. That's that one done. Just get that small loose bit there. Just flick that out of the way. And with these top 2, the wider trace, just going to gently score across there. Take your time with this. You don't want to go too deep, and if you can help it, you don't want to go beyond the width of the trace you're trying to cut. You basically don't want to scratch across here if you can help it. Same across here. Just go through 3 or 4 times. That should do for that one. Then we've got to do, basically flick that up. Just keep, that should just flick up, and then we get some tweezers on it. I'm just going to wiggle it at that point. Just start it to go loose, then we're going to get the tweezers on it. Just try and break it at that point. This is the first part of the clean-up. Just get these 2 loose bits broken off. As you can see, got a lovely score through there. Just zoomed in slightly for the second end. So again, I'm going to get this just tweaked up, and it should break at that point there. Like we've got a lovely clean break at this end. Should get the same up this end. So just going to try and curl it up slightly with the tweezers. So I've just scored about halfway through the trace, and that's the point it shouldn't go beyond. Just gently curl the trace up, and it should break at that point. So take your time with this. If you have to manoeuvre this trace quite a few times to get it broken away, that's a good thing. Just keep, if it breaks away and goes away loose, just keep an eye on where it goes. If you do it really gently, it should stay in the area. And that's broke at that point there, as you can see. So again, got a lovely clean break at that end. Like I'd probably say in some of the other clips, if you can see any of the layer down below, just put some solder mask in to get that protected. So that's the first part of the cleanup. So I've got all four of the narrow trace loose leads taken off, and the same with both ends of the wider trace. So that's the first part of the cleanup. So what you do now, we get the resist scraped back on all 6 tracks, all 6 parts of the traces. And yeah, that's the next part, and then we get them tinned up. Right, it just starts scraping away the resist. Now I'm just going to do this part here and these two here. So I won't film the other end, but I'm going to repeat the operation for these three as I do here, just to speed the video up slightly. So what you want to do, take it back about 1mm. This comes away quite easy if you've got a nice scalpel blade. Again, take your time. You should get a good result. Slightly more there, and then we'll do the other two. That should do for that one. We'll just do these two. So these two are 0.2 so very, very narrow trace. So again, just go about 1mm. Not too much pressure, it's quite easy to go right through the trace. Let's just get that dusted away slightly. Right, small amount of flux on there. Just on them two, that one there. I'm using leaded solder on this, so the iron set to about 330 degrees Celsius. So I've loaded my iron tip up with a small amount of solder, just get them tinned up. So we'll start with a wider one. You have to go into this a couple of times because it can take that. Just going to just go across there. I'll go back over that in a sec. Just put a bit more flux on there and we should get a good result. Now I'm just going to do the two narrow ones. It can take a small amount of time for this. Right, so I'm just going to go over them once more. We should get a nicer result now. Just going to add some soldering with this one as I go. That's that one. That's that one. So you've got three nice traces there, all soldered up. And that's what you're looking for. It's hard to see this. Them small traces are really, really small. When I clean these up, I'll take some photos, and that's what you'll be looking for. So what we do, I'll do the other end off camera, and I'll join you when I'm ready to do the two enamelled wires and the wider trace. I'm going to show you quickly where we're at. So basically I've taken both of these back about 1mm, tinned them up, same on this one here, these two ends. So we're basically going to start with a transplanted piece of trace on this, then we move on to these two after. So what we've got here, we've got an old scrap board. Now this trace here is about the same width as what we need on the other board. So I'm just going to lift a section of this up and then we'll cut it to length and donate it to the other board. So I've got a larger scalpel blade for this one. Just going to put a couple of scores through the trace. Just do one up here just before the writing. Try and angle your blade about 45 degrees. Just put a couple through there. Just going to mark the other end. Just make it break off at a later point. Right, so I'm not too worried if I go too deep on this, because it's only a scrap board. Like I say, just angle your blade about 45 degrees. It should start lifting up. Once you're confident you've gone all the way through, you can get your blade under one corner and start lifting the trace up. Right, let's just lift that corner up now. Confident I've gone through. So what you've got to do is try and get that just one corner raised up. You can flick it up right across, just straighten it back up. Let's try and get a pair of pliers on there. Then we'll try and basically lift it up without, if you can lift it up pull it fairly straight, you shouldn't break the resistance on the trace. Right, hopefully. Let's go down to about that score, just flatten it again. As you can see, got a really nice section of trace there, no damage at all on the resist. So when I straighten this out and just cut it to length, we're then going to basically scratch back the resist about 1/2 millimetre, or probably about 1mm either end, and then we'll fit it to the other board. I've done just to speed the video up slightly. I've cut the trace to length, the one we removed from the donor board. I've basically butted it up to either end. You have got the option of making it longer and laying it on top of the joint so you get a joint underneath, but I've just done a butt joint. So I basically scrape back the resist about 1 millimetre. So this joint's going to be about 2 millimetres, the same the other end. So let's get this soldered up. So I'm place a small amount of rework flux on the first end. Just put a small amount on there. So I'm going to use leaded solder again for this joint. So let's see how this goes. I'll try and hold the tweezers, the trace down with tweezers, just gently. So as you can see, we've got a lovely joint at that end. So what we do now, we'll just focus in on the second end. We get that soldered up. Right, so again place my flux, just get some more solder. I've got a small amount on my iron tip. So again, I've got a lovely joint on that end as well. So I've got two lovely joints. So what I'll do now, I'll clean all this up, just take a few photos, and yeah, you can see the results. Right, just quickly, this is the 0.2mm copper wire that we're going to use. So let's get straight on with fixing those two narrow traces. Right, I'm just going to talk you through how I prepare my narrow traces like these 0.2mm ones. Because they're enamel coated, as you can see with the bottom one, that's still got all this coating on. One in the centre, I've scraped back about 2mm, and that one at the top I've actually tinned. Now when I'm scraping it back, I do it under a microscope with a gentle scalpel blade, twisting it as I go. And that's going to take the coating off all the way around the wire. Like I say, I then tin it. Now the reason I do this, sometimes I see people putting these wires straight on their joints. They put the iron on, get a joint, but sometimes it can only melt the coating off in the point where the iron's touched it, and you won't get any joint around the rest of the wire. So I actually like to scrape back and tin these, and I'm ensuring a good joint all the way around the wire. And because these are short lengths that I'm using on this board, I'm going to cut these to length, get the other end prepared. So we've got two nice ends, the correct length of wire, and that's where I'm going to rejoin you, where we're going to get these fitted to the board. Right, so basically I come to the point now, I'm just going to fit these two small enamelled copper wires. Now, like I was saying earlier, I've just cut the wires to length. I've basically scraped the other end as I was saying previously. I've got them tinned, so they're now ready to be soldered to the board, just to fill the gaps in. So what I'm doing, basically I've got leaded solder again, a small amount of my iron tip. So let's get the first one soldered. Now the coating, as long as you've got tweezers that aren't too sharp, you can hold the coating. Right, that's got that one done. What I do here, I just push it slightly off the centre of the track, so I'll get a nice fillet up the side. And after, when you're inspecting it, you can see that really clearly. So it's a good little tip there. So if you look at, hopefully you can see this. If I go to the other end up here, it's slightly off the track, so you can see when you've got a nice fillet, you can see that clearly. So we'll get the other one fitted, and then we'll spin this around and do the other end. So come to the second wire now. So again, just going to add a small amount to my iron tip. Again, I'm going to grip the sleeve in, but the tweezers won't go through the coating. Again, I'm just going to lay it slightly off centre. And that, hopefully, you can see you've got a nice fillet all the way down to the base. So that's what you're looking for on them two. So they're both joined nicely. So what I'm going to do is turn this round and get the other ends done. So I've turned the board round. Now we're going to do the other ends of these two traces. I'm just going to grab hold of the trace before I solder it, because it's so short it will move. It's got that soldered up nicely. I'm going to do the second one. Yeah, well, this trace is literally 5mm long. So if you either solder it really quick, or you need to grip it like I'm doing here. Just get the second one soldered. That's got that nicely soldered. It's a job to see this, but I will take photos after. So hopefully you can see these yeah, slightly bit clearer. Say they're only 0.2 of a millimetre, very narrow traces, quite difficult to film, but I will be able to get some clear photos after. So what I will do, I'll get this cleaned up, and I'm just going to apply some solder mask to this afterwards. Right, so now I'm going to apply some solder mask to both of these areas just to give it extra security and protect the joints. So basically I'll do the small traces first. Just going to run right over the area, just apply it with a length of solder. Don't want to put too much on. Just try and do a neat job, just try and go around the whole area. Just small amount more down the front there. Just come around the back, just small around the front. So that's that whole area covered. Let's do the back ones now, the larger trace. Let's just cover both the joints and run some down the side. So I didn't use any glue underneath this trace, but I will do that later on in the videos. Same on that end. And let's run some up the side. So that's just going to give it extra security. Just run a small fillet down there. Just fill that centre in. And that should be enough to give both of these repairs a nice finish, and they should be good for quite a long period of time. Now I'm just going to get my UV torch on. Again, it's not the greatest torch I've got here. It will cure it, but it does take a while. So what I do, I'll rejoin you when this is cured. About 60 seconds mine starts to cure. Some torch is a lot more powerful, and then we'll show you the end results. As you can see, I've cured the solder mask, so it's nice and hard now. Now if you're struggling with a UV torch, just use a UV torch along with some hot air from a heat gun, about 250 degrees Celsius. Use them as a combination and it cures really quick. So yeah, if you, like I say, if you're struggling just with your torch, hot air, winning combination. So anyway, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to move on to the final trace repair in this, and yeah, I think you're going to like this one. Right, so moving on from the two traces we've just shown, come on to another trace that's roughly 1.5 millimeters side to side. Quite a long section of the trace that's lifted in the air, starting to curl up and lift quite badly. It's only going to get worse. This part's almost cracked right through. So this, as you can see, the other side's starting to curl up in the air. So as in the previous video, we're going to get all this area tidied up, but with this one I'm going to show you a great repair trick using copper tape. So if you haven't seen this method, I think you're going to quite enjoy this one. So what we do, get this tidied up, and yeah, we'll get on with the repair. So move on now to the area. Now basically I'm just going to show you how you can tidy up both ends just by gently scoring across the trace. You don't have to go all the way through. We'll do the same at the other end. We'll get this removed and then we'll get both ends tinned up, ready to accept the new copper tape. So all you're looking to do, put a light score. So just go gently. It's worth taking your time with this. Don't go too hard on pressure, because you could go through to planes down below. What we've got to do then, because that's scored halfway through, just gently wiggle the loose trace and it should break at that point. Just be patient. Right, that's got that nicely tidied up. So just go to the other end, do exactly the same there. Again, not too much pressure. Just don't want to slip with your scalpel blade. So just 4 or 5 times, just gently. That should do it for that. Again, Just try and wiggle that, just break it at that point. That's all you're looking to do. That should get that loose bit of trace off. So that's got both ends nicely tidied up. Now they're ready to start tinning up. Basically I'm just going to scrape the resist back slightly, about 0.5 millimetre, we'll get them tinned up. And then it's ready to accept the copper tape. Right, so what we've got here, basically we've tidied up the area where the trace was damaged. If you can see any of the inner layer showing through that missing trace section, just put some solder mask in there just to basically reduce the risk of a short. You don't want to get a short from the top layer to the next layer down. So putting some solder mask in there will protect it if you can see the inner layer. But as we can't on this one, I'm going to start basically scraping back the resist, ready to get them tinned up. What you do, gently with a scalpel blade, just want to go back about 1 millimetre. Again, take your time. When you're doing any soldering projects, patience is king. Basically just plenty of time, no rush. I'm just going to do this one end, basically just to speed the video up slightly, but we'll get this tinned up and get it prepared. So that's all you're looking for. So you've got all the resist removed, about 1 millimetre back. And just get that tinned up. Just get that brushed away. So a little bit of flux on there. I'm going to use leaded solder for this one. So I've got my old soldering iron set to about 330 degrees. And that should tin nice and quickly. So small amount of my soldering iron tip. Get that tinned up. That's all you're looking for. Basically we've got that nicely tinned up. And yeah, basically what I'll do now, I'll repeat the other end and then I'll rejoin you. And we'll show you the copper tape fitting stage. Right, so what I've done off camera, I prepared the second end exactly how I did the first end. Got them nicely tinned up using leaded solder like I said earlier. So I've got no damage at all in there, so I've got no inner layers exposed. So this is now ready to accept the copper tape, and that's yeah, we're going to get that prepared. Right, so I've got a sheet of copper tape here. Now you can buy this on reels, Farnell, RS Components, always the ones in America, Mauser and DigiKey. They sell this stuff as well. You can get variations in price, so shop around. This stuff's sticky backed. So you can either clean the adhesive off or you can just use it with the adhesive. But what I'm going to do on this one, I'm going to place just a small amount of glue underneath it just to give it added security. So anyway, easy to cut. You can use scissors. In this case I'm just got an old PCB. I'm just using a scalpel just to cut through. Now this is about the width that I'm going to need. Just a couple of cuts and that should go through. So I should have me perfect width there hopefully. Just get that last bit there. So that's gonna, as you can see, let's come on. There's the backing underneath. You can see. And now we're going to get that placed on the board and get it cut to length. Right. So what we got? This is basically the copper strip that I've just removed from that sheet. It's looking like it's going to be the perfect width to fit in that gap. So all you've got to do then is just keep cutting the length down till you get the perfect length. When you're replacing a damaged trace, for example with wire or a method like this, always, if you can, try and get the width exactly the same. You don't really, for instance, want a tiny little wire going across there, because it could be affected by the signals. So yeah, always try and match the width. So anyway, what I'll do, I'll keep trimming this down to get the perfect length, and then we'll get it glued in position. Right, so basically this is ready now to take the glue. So I'm going to use Tac Pack 382 for this one. It's a two-part adhesive. So basically just apply a very small fillet of glue, so I don't want the trace to rise up too much in the air. You can lower the small piece of copper strip that I prepared earlier. Let's just get that in place. So there's an activator comes with this glue, so you've got a small amount of time. It's quite tricky this, just want to get it placed nicely central, nice and flat. Just manoeuvre it into position. Just push it all the way down. So hopefully that looks nice and central, nice and flat. It's equally spaced between the two pads. So I'm quite happy with that. Now I'm just going to apply a small amount of activator. Let's just give it a quick burst of that. So just give that a couple of minutes to dry and set, and then we can get this soldered up. So the glue's now set, so this is ready to get soldered up. Basically I'm going to apply a small amount of rework flux over the whole area. I'm going to basically move it from the centre out and try and get the whole copper tape layered with a thin amount of solder. You don't want to be too long on these because you can get quite a few fumes from some of the glues you use on PCB, so if you've got any extraction, that's a good thing. Let's just get some flux added to that. So it's just going to aid the solder to basically flow really quick. Let's just get a small amount on the iron. I'm going to hold some tweezers there. Just sometimes glue can become dislodged with heat. It's got to be really quick. Just give it a quick wipe over. You just want to get that applied at the end. And go to the other end and do exactly the same. It's going to add a small amount more flux. So again, just work your way from the centre out towards the end pad. Just give it a quick wipe over. Just going to try and get that whole tape covered in a nice amount of solder. So you've got a nice join there. Just going to revisit the first end. Right, I'm just going to layer that down slightly. That's that one. So I'm quite happy there. I've got a nice amount on there, not too much. It actually looks higher than it is. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to clean all this up, and then I'm going to protect it with Kapton tape. You can use solder mask as well, but I'm actually going to use Kapton tape for this one. So we'll get the clean up and then we'll fit the Kapton after. Right, so as you can see, I ended up with a really nice result. We've got the perfect width of copper tape matching the existing trace there. Got two nice soldered joints at the ends. I'll do a continuity check in a second between this point and this resistor up here. But anyway, with this I'm going to protect it with Kapton tape. You can use solder mask if that's your preferred choice, you've got the option. But your proper Kapton tape from Farnell, RS, etc. It's going to be really good quality. It's going to have lots of stick to it, and this will stay on there for many years. This is just an easier option rather than the solder mask. Just ease that down right over the area. Hopefully you can see that's quite a nice result. So anyway, I'll just do a quick continuity check. Hopefully we get the signal buzzing. Right, just put it on that point there. This resistor. So we've got a perfect signal going through there. So that's a fixed trace. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed these methods I've shown within these videos. Hopefully there's a few options for you to try out. Anyway, thanks for your time, thanks for your support, and yeah, I really appreciate all the comments. So anyway, what I'll do, I'll come back shortly with some more soldering videos. So until then, take care and enjoy your soldering.